challenges are there flying private jets into China?
Well, all sorts of challenges right from the word go. So you've got to go prepared. I mean, I think if your client wants you to go to China, I think first most important thing is to get a good handling agent, or a good someone like Universal or Signum or ARINC or someone like that who can apply for the various permits, etc. Most importantly, the first thing you need to do is get a letter of invitation. Which obviously the people you're going to visit will provide for you, because that then has to be sent to the CAAC, which is the Civil Aviation Authority there. Those are the first things you need to do.
The important thing here for those of you that are watching this that are thinking of buying a private jet and then phoning your pilot up in the morning and saying we're going to China this evening, that's not going to happen.
No. I mean, you want to allow a good sort of 7 days, really, a good week to get all your permits in place. And then once you sort of get there, the problem is that, it's okay to go to like Beijing or Shanghai, places like that, because they're the major airports. But some of the smaller airports are more difficult. There's more, there's, I think, 200 civil airports or so in China, a lot more military ones, of course. And not all of those are obviously available to civilians, unless you go with a navigator. And that gets quite expensive, can be up to, $1,500 to $3,000 for a navigator for a trip. And you've got to get them there. And they obviously, some of these more remote airports, they don't speak English. So you've got to have someone who can speak, Chinese or Mandarin, to help you on your way. Flight permits, as I say, are very important. You've got to get those, and then get quite expensive as well. You've got to allow, sort of anything between $3,000 to get all your for your fees, for government compensation fee, they call it, which is sort of like a tax, and then your landing fees are generally, certainly on a global, around $1,200, or the airport fees or thereabouts, and then navigation fees on top of that. So that's quite interesting. What else can I think of that you've got the sponsor? I'd already mentioned that.
What about immigration?
The important thing is managing your clients' expectations, because the big problem is, Fabrizio, is it's not like Europe or in America where the boss can phone up and say, okay, Sean, I'm going to be 2 hours late. Ain't going to work in China. You have to keep to your departure times. There's sometimes a little bit of flexibility, a couple of hours. They're getting a little bit better at that now, but in my experience, you really have to keep to the schedule. It's one place where you really have to do that. Russia's a bit the same, but China is very, very strict on that. So, you can't have, I'm going to change my mind and we're going to, leave at, instead of 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, because they won't wear it. And, to get to change the permit can take up to a couple of days. If you've got the right people like Universal or Signum, they can generally do it within 2 or 3 hours, but, I wouldn't hang my hat on it, put it like that, so.
Makes sense.
And then obviously immigration is important. You've got to make sure you have all the clients have their visas, and stuff like that, especially for crew getting in and out. And if they're going to leave the aircraft there, for instance, you can't just leave. You have to make sure you get your Gendex stamped, because you're going to leave on an airline. Whereas because you would go in on a crew visa, but you're going to have to exit on a normal visa. So you're going to have to get both visas, and therefore some of the crews do have problems. They best always have 2 passports, so that you can always send one off to get the visas in while you still travel around on your other passport. So, but I see the restrictions in China, lessening. It's getting better. Because they realise that business aviation is a moneymaker, and also they're people. The race wants to encompass business aviation to get around and do business.
The thing is with China, obviously, that I saw with the sales of private jets initially, they're all going for the new and the large jets. Now the market's shifting where they're looking at pre-owned and the smaller jets, because they're starting to realise where the private jet is not a luxury item. It can be a luxury item, but the Chinese have started to realize it's actually a business tool, and you don't need to have the latest and greatest. You can buy a 10-year-old airplane that's going to cost you less. I mean, and you don't need to have the large cabin airplane if you're just going to fly short sectors. So as the mind shift is changing amongst the entrepreneurs, it looks like, to me at least, that the Chinese government is realizing that, okay, well, if it's a business tool for us, it must be a business tool for the Americans and the Germans that are coming in here. We need to make sure that we create a business jet friendly environment, so you can get permits quickly, the landing fees aren't too expensive, the air traffic controllers actually are learning English, and so they speak English, so you don't need a Chinese navigator on board, and all these things. Because as you know yourself, private jet owners love the fact that they can suddenly change what time they can leave at last minute.
Well,
you go to China,
right.
it's not going to happen.
That's the whole purpose of having an aeroplane, of course. And in China, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's getting better, but it's a slow process. And of course, the biggest other problem is parking. So Hong Kong, really difficult to park. You know that we've discussed that before. There's other places where you can park there, Shenzhen or Macau, places like that. South of Beijing, there's an airfield there called Tianjin, which is about a 90-minute drive. But that it's got plenty of parking. But I've been to Beijing many times, and sometimes you just can't get parking. You have to move the aircraft. You're allowed to literally drop off, and then you've got to move. So it's got to be well planned. Fabrizio, if you're operations in China.
That's all from me on this episode. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and share this video. And that's all from Fab Poli at Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.